Why the Arab world and Egypt are not willing to receive Palestinian refugees from Gaza.
In reaction to the grave plight of Palestinians in Gaza as a result of Israel's continued retribution for Hamas's October 7 offensive, neighboring nations Egypt and Jordan have categorically refused to provide asylum. Jordan has a sizable Palestinian population, but like Egypt, it has refused to accept Palestinian refugees from Gaza and the West Bank, which is also under Israeli occupation. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sissi made his toughest remarks yet on Wednesday, saying the current war was not just aimed at fighting Hamas, which rules the Gaza Strip, but also an attempt to push the civilian inhabitants to migrate to Egypt. He warned this could wreck peace in the region. Jordan's King Abdullah II has previously stated, "No refugees in Jordan, no refugees in Egypt." Their opposition stems from a worry that Israel will forcibly expel Palestinians from their nations, thereby negating Palestinian ambitions for statehood. El-Sisi also warned that a huge migration would send extremists into Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, from where they may launch assaults on Israel, jeopardizing the 40-year-old peace pact between the two nations. Displacement has been a recurring subject throughout Palestinian history. During the 1948 conflict that preceded Israel's establishment, an estimated 700,000 Palestinians were expelled or left what is now Israel. Palestinians call the incident the Nakba, which is Arabic meaning catastrophe. When Israel took the West Bank and Gaza Strip in the 1967 Mideast conflict, 300,000 additional Palestinians fled, largely into Jordan. Nearly 6 million refugees and their descendants today live in camps and communities in the West Bank, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. The diaspora has grown, with many refugees settling in Gulf Arab nations or the West. Following the end of the 1948 war, Israel refused to allow refugees to return to their homes. Since then, Israel has rejected Palestinian aspirations for the repatriation of refugees as part of a peace settlement, claiming that it would jeopardize Israel's Jewish majority. Egypt fears that history will repeat again and that a big Palestinian refugee population from Gaza would remain permanently. Israel has stated that it plans to annihilate Hamas in retaliation for its violent assault in its southern towns. But it hasn't said anything about what happens next or who will administer Gaza. This has generated fears that it may reoccupy the land for an extended length of time, fueling fresh strife. The Israeli military said Palestinians who obeyed its order to escape northern Gaza to the southern part of the territory would be permitted to return home after the war ended. El-Sisi warned that if Israel claims it has not properly defeated extremists, the combat might endure for years. He advocated that Israel keep Palestinians in the Negev Desert, which borders the Gaza Strip, until its war operations are terminated. Israel's lack of clarification concerning its plans to act in Gaza and the evacuation of the people is in and of itself problematic. This uncertainty promotes fears in the locality, said Riccardo Fabiani, Crisis Group International's North Africa project director. Egypt has lobbied Israel to permit humanitarian aid into Gaza, and Israel announced Wednesday that it will, but did not specify when. According to the UN, Egypt, which is in the grip of an economic crisis, already accommodates over 9 million refugees and migrants, including approximately 300,000 Sudanese who immigrated this year after fleeing their country's conflict. However, Arab nations and many Palestinians fear that Israel would take this chance to force irreversible demographic shifts in Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem, which Israel also occupied in 1967. El-Sisi said again on Wednesday that an evacuation from Gaza would eliminate the Palestinian cause, the most important cause of our region. He stated that if a demilitarized Palestinian state had been established long ago through negotiations, there would be no need for conflict now. H. A. Hellier, a senior associate fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace said, all historical precedent points to the fact that when Palestinians are forced to leave Palestinian territory, they are not allowed to return back. Egypt doesn't want to be complicit in ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Arab countries' anxieties have only been exacerbated by the growth of hard-right groups in Israel under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that advocate for the removal of Palestinians. Since the Hamas attack, the language has shifted, with some right-wing lawmakers and media figures driving for the IDF to raze Gaza and expel its residents. According to one MP, Israel ought to be carrying out a new Nakba on Gaza. Simultaneously, Egypt claims that a large exodus from Gaza will send Hamas or other Palestinian militants onto its territory. That may be unsettling in Sinai, where Egypt's military has been fighting Islamic militants for years, accusing Hamas of supporting them at one time. Egypt has supported Israel's siege of Gaza since Hamas assumed control of the area in 2007, closely limiting material access and civilian movement. It also damaged the network of border tunnels used by Hamas and other Palestinians to sneak items into Gaza. With the Sinai insurgency essentially defeated, Cairo does not want to have a new security problem on its hands in this problematic region, Fabiani said. El-Sissi cautioned of an additional dangerous scenario, the destruction of Egypt's and Israel's 1979 peace treaty. He predicted that the presence of Palestinian militants will turn Sinai into a base for attacks on Israel. Israel would have the right to defend itself and would strike Egyptian territory. The peace which we have achieved would soon disappear from our hands. He went on to say, all for the sake of the idea of eliminating the Palestinian cause.